Since 1948, the Pine Needle has delivered news to the students of the University of North Carolina at Pembroke and the surrounding community. News stories changed over the years and flagged landmarks in UNCP's history, like the effects of polio and polio fundraisers, and Bill Clinton's decisions during Operation Desert Fox. The workload, deadlines, and edits or cuts made by the editor-in-chief gave the students proper training for future jobs in media. Today, the newspaper production class helps students work in tandem with the Pine Needle to achieve the same level of professional work that they'll need when they graduate.
I came to UNCP in 2018, and I started my job as the Pine Needle advisor, and I teach mainly journalism courses here at the university. I've done a lot of jobs. I've been a journalist. I've done communication and PR and various things. I try to treat them as they would get the treatment in a newsroom. They've come to understand that you have to be able to write, take photos, do social media. They have to be able to deliver the whole package.
When I became editor-in-chief, the first big article I wrote was the Black Lives Matter march that they had here in Pembroke, counter-protesters, and it kind of got a little ugly. All the experiences I've had with the Pine Needle have been great. A lot of them put me out of my comfort zone, so that I guess provides room for personal and professional growth.
In order to understand the impact of the Pine Needle and the community at large, I've spoken to the Director of Special Collections and Archives of the Livermore Library about their digitized collections of newspapers.
Newsprint itself just does not hold up well to long-term storage. It disintegrates, it yellows, it turns into dust. It's not the best preservation material. It's meant to be ephemeral. And I found out that somebody did an honors project right around the year 2000 where they had gone and done all the digitization for us back to the 40s. So all we had to worry about was from like 2000 coming forward. And that with the yearbook are the two biggest things that people want to see in our digital collections.
Knowing the Pine Needle is beloved by alumni and students, I asked Wade Allen, a former writer, if he thinks students would benefit from working at the Pine Needle.
I think anybody interested in a career in journalism would benefit from working at the Pine Needle. I learned real life experience from Dr. Judy Curtis and her husband, the late Dr. Tony Curtis. They were our advisors, and they had been publishers in New York City and had a lot of real world experience to bring to the table. And I learned a lot about interviewing people. I learned a lot about just communicating with people, setting up interviews, being on time, being prepared. And these are all just good life lessons, really good life skills that have served me well in my journalism career for 10 years and then my self-employment career after that. A lot of it's just being prepared, being on time, being professional, having ethics. We learned a lot about ethics and journalism standards and got to put those into practice every day working on the Pine Needle.
I then moved my attention to Jonathan Bim, another writer, if he had any interesting stories from his time working to get an idea of what students might deal with when handed an abnormal story.
One controversial story, I guess when I was editor-in-chief, one of the investigative journalism students did a story on students who stripped to make ends meet in college. And that was her investigative story. Dr. Tony Curtis, who I mentioned, he was the teacher, and he mentioned, well, let's run this in the Pine Needle. I think it was the last Pine Needle of, I guess it would have been 2014, the spring 2014 semester. And that paper, I remember, was like off the shelves immediately as soon as we could get it. And I later found out that it was because when the ones we would put down at Lumbee Hall, as soon as we put them on the desk right there, they would grab the stack and throw them in the trash.
These two Pine Needle veterans gave me an inside look into working for the paper. I then asked those currently working on the production of the Pine Needle what their work now is like.
We've had a couple that have been problematic. In one case, it was a photo we ran following a train accident. It was a tarped body in the background of some first responders in a train, but that received a little blowback from the community. They didn't think we should have run that image on our cover. We had one class where we discussed it and were visited by a dean for that class, and they were comfortable in their decision to run it, and that it was news and newsworthy. The students are ambitious. It's evolving. That might be the word for the Pine Needle, evolving.
Always trying to do something new. So it's kind of hard doing change because some people don't want change. But I know we can do change. So it's just more as trying to get students to be more confident in what they're writing about, getting someone to actually want to join newspapers. Sometimes a challenge because they get scared about the idea of writing because they think that writing's hard.
So what do you want to do after school, and how do you think the Pine Needle is going to help you with that?
Well, as a journalist major, I'm looking to maybe actually creating my own podcast in the future, or even my own magazine. So the Pine Needle helps a lot with that.
I think a lot of people have misconceptions about the Pine Needle, like they might think they have to be a journalism or be on the journalism track or broadcasting track to be a part of the Pine Needle, but that's not the case. We take all kinds of majors.
And in journalism, we are storytellers. That's the heart of what we do. And if it's telling through a podcast or through the music what the story of what the students are listening to as they walk around campus or during my classes with their earpods. It's definitely storytelling, but yeah, I think we may have hit on it finally.
The Pine Needle continues their work, releasing bi-weekly papers about school and regional events currently held at UNCP. My name is Justin Heath, and this is Impact.